Hi, and welcome to Bible Drills, where we take a few minutes of time in God's timeless Word. We're going to pick up our story in chapter 6, where we're going to be learning of two different kinds of kingdoms. One is easily identifiable as the kingdom of this world, and the second is also easily identifiable as the kingdom of heaven, and that Jesus is the king of that kingdom, and Herod is the king of this worldly kingdom. And the two differences are stark, shocking even, amazing, and also help us understanding of the kind of world we all live in. We all remember, if we've ever heard the Lord's Prayer, we hear Jesus saying, "Our Father in heaven, holy is your name. Thy will be done, thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven." The two kingdoms are not far apart. I've heard it explained very clearly that I thought was very helpful to me. And that is, there is this very thin layer between the two kingdoms. And at any moment, there can be a breakthrough where kingdom of heaven comes to earth. And that is through the activity of God's saints, but it also is completely in the hands of a sovereign God. If he wants to break through, he'll break through. And there's really nothing that can be done to change that. And so as we look at this story, it's good to kind of keep that as the framework for it. We're going to hear about a king named Herod. And starting at verse 14, King Herod heard about this, for Jesus' name had become well known. So there was a bunch of miracles going on prior to this. And some of them were saying, John the Baptist has been raised from the dead. And that is why miraculous powers are at work in him. Interesting scenario. It's quite a stretch if you think about it. You could either say that Jesus had the power and his fathers had the power to perform these miracles, or you could think John the Baptist has come back from the dead and thereby has the power to also do these miracles. I mean, that's a stretch in anybody's book, but at least that's what they were talking. Others were saying it's Elijah, and still others claimed he is a prophet like the one of the prophets long ago. But when Herod heard this, he said, John, whom I beheaded, has been raised from the dead. So he just went all out in all kinds of weirdness and decided that it was, somehow his doing, that he put John to death. And now John, without a head, has been raised from the dead and is now going around doing and performing all these miracles. For Herod himself had given orders to have John arrested and had him bound and put in prison. So now we get the backstory. He did this because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, whom he had married. For John had been saying to Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." So Herodias nursed a grudge against John and wanted to kill him. So this is just one happy family. We've got one brother married to a wife whose other brother wants that wife for his own. And you've got John the Baptist saying, no, you can't do that. This is not in the law. You have to leave her alone and stop what you're doing. But because of that, he gained an enemy in Herodias' wife, who nursed a grudge and wanted to kill him. Very interesting. How grudges lead to murder. But she was not able to, because Herod feared John and protected him, knowing he was a righteous and holy man. So there's this thing happening where it was a cat and mouse. So she was after him to get him, but King Herod was like, no, I'll protect you. And so when Herod heard John, he was greatly puzzled. Yet he liked to listen to him. And I think that says a lot about the kingdom of this world. I think people are genuinely puzzled about the message of Christianity. And I think that there is this squinting eye, and I'm not sure, but yet somehow I like to listen to the message. Finally, the opportune time came. On his birthday, Herod gave a banquet for his high officials and military commanders and the leading men of Galilee. And so what we have here is this big banquet's going on for Herod's birthday. And when the daughter of Herodias came and danced, she pleased Herod and the dinner guests. From what I understand, this was quite a dance, not your normal pure dance. It was rather scantily dressed, I have been able to ascertain from some of the commentaries and some of the way the Greek words are lined up here. The king said to the girl, quite aroused, "Ask me for anything you want, and I will give it to you." That is quite a statement for a king to make. And he promised her on oath, "Whatever you ask, I'll give it to you, up to half of my kingdom." Now, this is just quite something. This girl must have really, got his crank wound up. And the king said to the girl, he said this on oath, and she went out and she said to her mother, "Mom, what should I ask for?" Well, she went out and of course her mother had an idea. Without even blinking an eye, she said, "The head of John the Baptist." At once the girl hurried in to the king before he changed his mind, right? And with a request, "I want you to give me right now the head of John the Baptist on a platter." Oh, the king was greatly distressed by this news. But because of his oaths and his dinner guests, he did not want to refuse her. So out of his pride, he immediately sent an executioner with orders to bring John's head. The man went, beheaded John in the prison, and brought back his head on a platter. He presented it to the girl, and she gave it to her mother. What a gift. All these wonderful gifts, a head on a platter. On hearing of this, John's disciples came and took his body and laid it in a tomb. At least there was some care for him. But I think, just to say this is the kingdom of the world. It's messed up. It's full of wickedness. It is confusing. It's back and forth, up and down. What is up is down, and what is down is up. There was enough curiosity. He thought of John as a holy man, yet when it came to it, he was pretty aroused. He offered this girl whatever she wanted, couldn't deny her in front of all the guests, so his pride kicked in, and they took a man's life over a dance. And you just think, how sad, how terrible. I think there's an awakening that happens in the soul when we hear stories like this. And they're not uncommon. They happen around the world all the time. But I think there's this sadness at the brokenness of humanity. And the other thing is, what about John? John was a testimony. John was a light in that dark world. And John was willing to give his life for the cause. And I guess in that sense, he was a hero, a genuine hero of the faith. He died, yes, over a dance and over a king's craziness, drunken, fueled oath, aroused oath, and yet he lost his life for that. And I think that we as believers need to come to grips with that, especially in our day. We just don't know. We don't. Life can turn on a dime. Favor can be changed in an instant. What some people respect, they're not willing to speak up to hold to because they don't fear it that much. And that is the message of the gospel of Jesus, that he is the Christ, he is the Messiah. And so without any fear, horrible things are done to other people. It's a very sad story, but it is the true story of the kingdom of this world.